Welcome to Creating Momentum. I'm running 7 webinars this year, and particularly 7 because I want to share multiple ways for you to create momentum in your life. There is not just one way to do that, and so I really felt the need to call each one Creating Momentum, but having a slightly different flavour so that everybody gets an idea around a different way to create momentum in your own life. So when I originally thought, how can I share this information? I realized that I had to do something a little bit different. I had to share a bit about me, because what's really interesting when you host a webinar is that no one gets to introduce you. You just show up and start talking. But I wanted to give you some introduction of who I am. So I need to take you back to 1994. So this was in my first year of being married. Now, most people in their first year of marriage, it's very blissful. I think it's called the honeymoon period. Well, I did it a little bit differently. We didn't really have a honeymoon period. We kind of fell into marriage very quickly and very early on in our life. And yeah, that was kind of part of the reason, but there was something else significant that happened. My husband became very, very passionate about computers. It was quite inspiring to watch, if I think about it now. So in 1994, he had the latest PC, he needed the latest operating systems, he needed the latest games, and he spent hours, I mean hours, in his study in front of that monitor, playing games, fixing things, breaking hardware and software and fixing it, because that was how he was learning. And he would just spend hours and hours. So pretty much for the first year of our marriage, that's where he sat, into the early hours of the night. Now, that might be okay, except for me, from where I was sitting, I felt quite left out. I felt a bit abandoned, and I just didn't know what to do with that experience, because I thought it would have all been about the two of us, but that didn't seem to be what was playing out. So what did I do? I went to my girlfriends. Didn't go to the husband, went to the girlfriends, and I complained. I whinged, I bitched about it, I complained, everything. Any conversation I had with those girlfriends was all about how terrible it was and the terrible circumstance I was in. In fact, I gave myself a name. I was the computer widow. And for the next 12 months, I actually wore that label as a bit of a badge of honour. I was a computer widow, and I claimed it with all my might. Now, as you could probably well imagine, about 6 months in, my girlfriends got a little bit bored of me being the computer widow. But it didn't stop me. I kept complaining and they kept listening, well, sort of, till one day. I was at a girlfriend's place. We were standing out on her back veranda, and I remember it very clearly. She turns to me. She says, "Chris, get a life." Well, who gets to say that to me? I was astounded. I do believe I went into shock. It took me about 5 days to get over it. And when I look back now, it really was a defining moment. I really needed to get a life. But then I had this new dilemma. What did that look like? What did I have to do to get a life? So this is now end of 1994, beginning of 1995. We were still getting the weekend paper. So as part of that weekend paper, we would get a TAFE lift out. So in that TAFE lift out, I would go through every course that TAFE was offering. Photography, pottery, anything at all. Nothing appealed to me. So for the 6 to 12 months, I looked every single weekend. I was determined to get a life. But I couldn't find anything. And I went back to my girlfriends and I complained a bit more about the fact that I didn't have a life and I didn't have anything. And after 12 months, I was done. I gave up. I just went, that's it. Obviously, I'm not supposed to have a life. I can't find anything that interests me at all. Coincidentally, at about that same time, something fell directly into my lap. Problem was, I didn't even notice it. It was my first introduction to personal development. And about 6 months later, I got another thing fall into my lap. Again, personal development. I wasn't really paying any attention though. And quite honestly, for the next 13 years, I dabbled in personal development, but I didn't really think that was part of what I was doing. Of course, fast forward to today, and it is absolutely what I live for. It is absolutely personal development for myself and for others is my complete passion. But I put myself on pause for 13 years simply because I'd given up. It took me 13 years to gather any ounce of momentum, and this is why I'm creating this series and sharing these stories with you, because I am absolutely positive that no one else's life is going to get put on pause for 13 years like mine. But this leads me to the topics that I want to cover tonight. First though, I want to see who is familiar with profiling systems. Are you familiar with, say, Myers-Briggs or DISC profiling? Is there anyone that's familiar with that? Excellent. We've got a few that are on board and are familiar. Excellent. Well, I'm not going to talk about any of those because I have studied those types of profiling systems for a while. And as much as they gave me a sense of who I was and how I behaved, there was something a little bit missing. So I needed to look a little closer. So I needed to look at who I was, and that's the question that I'm going to ask of you as well. Who are you? Now, we can take profiling systems and we can answer checklists and we can get really good ideas about what behaviours we express. We can get ideas about our personalities and how that plays out in our life. But there's a deeper aspect that I want to look at. And it's about the energy that we actually bring. Not what we put out, but what brings behind us. What energy are we driving from before we express who we are? And so I've developed my own profiling methodology, and it's called DEEP. I wanted to introduce this to you. In fact, this is the first time that I have introduced publicly this concept. So the first section in this profiling methodology is called discovery. This is an energy that is always looking to expand. This energy asks a lot of questions. It looks around for things. It looks for new ideas. It looks for people to be excited about. There's a lot of research in this as well. There's just a whole lot of discovery. That's one of the energy categories. The next one is embracing. This energy always likes to include others. It has this all-encompassing feel of, that's a great idea. Let me encompass that into what I'm doing, or, oh, look, all these people need to come together. There's this really strong energy to include others and include ideas. The next one is essentials. Now, this energy has a little bit more groundedness to it. This energy can sense what outcomes are ahead. It can sense what conversations need to be had. This energy is great at just commenting at the right time. There's this space that is created in the essential energy. And then we have perceptive. This energy just knows the direction that needs to be taken. It knows where we need to go, who we need to be in front of, when we need to be in front of them, and gets us there. Now, these four energies are not like a standard profiling system. You may feel attracted to one of those four, but in actual fact, every single one of those energies you have access to, and every single one of those energies can create momentum in your life. And as much as that's great, we all have these brick walls that we come up against. So fantastic. We now know that we've got this energy that can be behind us and to boost us into creating momentum. But then we have a brick wall. So what are we going to do with that? Now, often this brick wall can be a little bit invisible. It can be hard to see what the brick wall is made up of. But when you engage one of those deep energies, you can find your way around that brick wall. The discovery energy will ask many, many questions and eventually find that it can go around that brick wall just by asking questions. The embracing energy will bring so many people along for the ride that the wall just collapses because there's just so much momentum to get past it. Now, the essential energy, they may take a little longer, that energy. It will be a lot more observant. That energy allows a little bit of space to observe whether we might be able to go over the brick wall or around the brick wall, or sometimes under the brick wall. But it will give us space to really see what's sitting in that brick wall. And then the perceptive energy. Now, that energy is fantastic for getting across brick walls because perception will allow you to see why the brick wall is there in the first place. And once we know our why, that wall will start to collapse. So every single one of those energies can be very, very helpful in getting you over, through, under, around your brick wall. And then what happens is that we get into this expansive field. And then what do? How do we know where we go from there? And that is where collaboration comes in. Now, collaboration is often spoken about person to person, team to team, business to business. It's often a collaboration with someone else or something else, and we're encouraged to collaborate with others. But there's a deeper collaboration that can be much more helpful, and that is collaboration within you. So I'm going to start with the easy ones. If you have collaboration between your gut, your heart, and your head, you will start to know exactly what to do in this new expanded field that we've now brought you to. If I just go back to that story I was telling you about being a computer widow, you know, when I was looking for the thing that was going to give me a life, there was only two parts of me that were actually pretty active. One was my head, because I was very diligently going through the paper and looking, so I was doing a lot of thinking, and I was probably using a lot of my gut to know whether that felt right or not, but I was missing a very key component, and it was my heart. I had no love in it. One of the reasons was I didn't have any love for myself. And so there was no way that I could find a way to join those three things together. So often when you feel that you're in this expanse and you don't know how to move forward, you need to look at the collaboration that's going on between just those three simple things. But I'm going to introduce another part of you that particularly, well, based on the story I shared, would also be really helpful. And I did find really helpful for me to really properly collaborate. And it was about my future self. So when I talk about future self is the idea of anything that you're planning ahead, anything that you're imagining. Now for me, engaging my imagination felt difficult. And so until I could engage my future self and play out a little bit about what I might like to do in my future, I couldn't really say yes to anything because that future self wasn't engaging, it wasn't collaborating with all parts of me. So collaboration internally is vital while you're trying to create momentum in your life. So just as I wrap this up, I want to give you a quote to leave you with. Be open to new ways of seeing, new ways of being. It'll break the cycle of your past. I really want to allow you to not let that past stop you and allow your future to be everything you want it to be. And as a thank you tonight, I also want to share that thanks, because you're on the line tonight, something very awesome has happened. So I'm going to come back to me so I can share this story properly for you. So I have been part of B1G1 since 2010. Now, some of you will be familiar with what B1G1 is about, but very, very briefly, when I first joined B1G1 as a business member, it was an organisation. These days, they call it a movement. There are so many people on board with B1G1. What it does is it allows individuals, small businesses, anyone, to actually give to small projects around the world. And I'm very, very proud that I have been doing that for many years now. And as a result, I have created 1.7 million impacts just through interactions that I've had through my business. But that provides a challenge for me because I might have made over 1.7 million impacts, but I want to make more. And so I'm always coming up with different ways to do that. And the webinar and you created that opportunity for me. So I went online and I looked at all of the categories that B1G1 offers. And there was this one that jumped out at me and it was called life enhancement. I went, well, that's a no-brainer. That's what I want to do for you. I want to enhance your life. Great. What was the subcategories in that? And what I found was a project that provides vitamin supplements for kids. And what really excited me about that was those supplements prevent blindness. And I thought it was just a lovely connection into what I want to do for this webinar. I want to open your eyes for you to see beyond your brick walls. So I want to prevent blindness in you. And it just felt like an amazing connection and link for this webinar. So as a result, we have provided 1,200 doses of vitamins for kids in Kenya as a result of you being on this webinar right now. So it is with most gratitude from me that you have been able to be part of creating that impact. And through this webinar, I want to enhance your life by unlocking your power, and letting you see how much power you really have to offer the world.